and welcome to episode 4. As you might be able to tell if you're watching the video version of this, I'm going a bit more casual today. I'll be honest, it's been a bit tough keeping up with this weekly schedule. It's good for me, but I am pushing myself. And today I just didn't feel like getting all gussied up for this. If you've made it this far, I figure you can handle seeing a 50-year-old woman without makeup. And not like some women try to claim that it's a no makeup selfie. Oh, except for some foundation. Oh, and some blush and a little bit of eyeliner and some lip gloss. No makeup means no makeup. Sorry, it's just a pet peeve of mine. I am also dressed to go to the pool. Summer has finally arrived in full force, and it's just the best way for me to get exercise, which I do need more of, so it's important that I fit it into my schedule along with doing this. Also, I can't seem to do a thing with my hair. So whatever. At the risk of going off on too much of a tangent, it also reminds me of my grandmother. Admittedly, as much as I loved her, I hate to think that I'm the same age as she was when she would go swimming with us kids in the 80s, but that's neither here nor there. She always insisted that we get her a guest pass for any apartment community that we lived in, and we lived in a lot when we weren't living with her. I'll probably go back and talk about my childhood more in the future, but for now, let's continue the story where I left off last episode. After the great time we had in Tampa, we were anxious to start doing our own parties. To start things off, we decided to go back to where it had all begun. As I mentioned before, there was a bar right next to where we lived in that first apartment above the State Farm office, and we chose to announce that as our first official party location. It was just me, Dave, and a brand new web girl who we sort of recruited and went by the stage name Simple. Her choice, I promise. We actually helped a few girls start websites, including my sister for a short time, but she was our first and most enduring project. Simple had worked at Pizza Hut with Dave, and after a while, they became good enough friends that they started talking about the website and how we could help her start her own. Simple always maintained that she was softcore only. She became comfortable with taking off her clothes in all sorts of different situations, but nothing sexually explicit. Just fun nudity. Only 3 guests showed up that time, but it was fun. One of them was just Johnny. He only posed for a couple of tame pictures with me back at that apartment that day. But that was only the beginning with him. More about him later. I had never heard the terms bar meet or after party at the time, but after a while, that's what everybody started calling them. We kind of solidified the format with that first party, which carried on for all our future get-togethers. Meet up in a public place, usually a bar, and then invite anyone who seemed cool back to our place to hang out more. The after party was always my favorite. There I could relax, take my clothes off. Plus, I love to decorate. So if it was a holiday or something, I could have fun dressing our apartment up, even if I was the only one to notice or care. I was always sure to preface our party announcements with the message, do not come to this expecting to have sex with me or anybody else. As time went on, the parties did have a tendency to get wilder, but that message never changed. If we became good enough friends with you and one thing led to another, that's one thing. But if you came with any expectations whatsoever, I could spot you a mile away and you immediately disqualified yourself. The one thing we always tried to be clear and unequivocal about, you must show the utmost respect to everyone, especially the women. You don't do anything unless they let you know it's okay. Period. I never knew how many people actually read the things I wrote, but with perhaps just a couple of exceptions, which were dealt with quickly. All those parties, everybody was so cool. We always seemed to attract the best people, and they all got it. That feeling of being with like-minded people was so special. I still miss it. Sometimes I have no idea what I was thinking at a particular time. I still find it kind of strange that we didn't even think to take photos on those first couple of trips we made when the site first started making money. The first trip we took where we took photos was an impromptu trip to Atlantic City for a couple of days. Even then, I only posed inside of our hotel room. I did buy special lingerie for it, though. At home, we were always trying to think of new ideas for photos. One day, we found out that we could climb out of one of our windows onto the roof of the building below us. The first time we did, it was summer, and we got tar all over our hands and feet. Later, when it was also cooler outside, we found ways of avoiding the tar, like putting old sheets down first. It was so fun to get naked up there. I could hear the traffic going by on York Road, but the signage of the building hit us very effectively. It felt so naughty. The only time I had ever felt anything similar was with my first boyfriend. It was before I had even lost my virginity to him. His parents were out and we were in his room. I don't remember if he undressed me or if I did it myself, but I know he left the room at one point and I was just standing there naked. It was a bit awkward. I kept trying to figure out how I should stand, where I should put my hands. Do I cover anything or not? But I stayed where I was. It was late afternoon and the sun was slanting through the windows. I could see the little specks of dust illuminated in the air. It was quiet and warm in his house. He came back after a few minutes, but I found that time alone to be so empowering in some way. I felt so sexy and beautiful and not dirty in the slightest. I felt powerful. I was only 16 at the time, and it was my first time doing anything like that. And I have never been ashamed of the fact that I liked it. It was the same when we first started venturing outside. At first, we just went around the building on a Sunday when it would be the least busy. I flashed here and there in this little peach vest and skirt combo that I think I bought while I was working as a fitting room attendant at Marshall's when I was 18. Oh, Marshall's. If you only knew what I did with that one coworker of mine there. But I digress. I love my memories from our time in that first apartment, but before long we decided to move. We headed north into the county and chose a community in Cockeysville, Maryland, where we still live today. In fact, for a few years I worked in the leasing office of this place. We had only been looking for a one-bedroom, but somehow we were talked into renting a two-bedroom with a den. I did not voice this to Dave at the time, but I'll admit the thoughts of a nursery danced through my mind, and the den would be perfect for me to have an office. The place wasn't anything fancy, but it was a nice-sized space with central air and an in-unit washer and dryer. No more hanging sheets and taking buses to the laundromat. We moved in on November 10th, 1996. Things continued as usual for a while. We were settling into our new place. We got a dog, the aforementioned Spot. I still miss my Spotty boy. In addition to the parties and traveling, I posed naked all over the place. I will probably have to do a whole episode on all the places I've flashed. The fact that we never got into any trouble for what we did is a testament to how careful we were. But we were definitely becoming more and more daring. At the same time, we were exploring the exciting world of video production, especially once I picked up my very first vibrator at a store called The Loved Ones in Towson. Again, digital cameras were still in their infancy, so most recordings were on good old VHS. But we actually sold a CD-ROM before we sold tapes. They would contain our entire archive of photos up until its creation, as well as numerous video clips. Many of the longer scenes had to be cut down into smaller clips because the files were so huge and computers were so ill-equipped to handle them. And don't even think of downloading through the internet. It was simply an exercise in frustration to try to do anything with video via the early internet. After a while, I decided it would be better all around to just make VHS tapes. Editing and duplication were achieved via two connected VCRs. I actually was editing when Dave snapped this picture of me. See the notebook in the corner? That's where I was making notes about where to stop and start things on the video. I don't exactly know why I was naked at the time, but we had no kids living with us, and I don't know, I was just naked around the house a lot. I kind of miss that, too. Years ago, while doing a big spring cleaning, I found no less than 9 VCRs, and even some old, unused, blank VHS tapes, still in the package. I used to buy the latter in bulk whenever I could find them. Fun side fact, I am a huge fan of Mystery Science Theater 3000, but I had no tapes to trade in the beginning. I did, however, have another type of tape I could trade. Yes, I traded my porn tapes for episodes of MST3K. Everything was done by us, and frankly, by that time, mostly me. Dave was still the photographer and was certainly there to help if I had any computer issues I couldn't deal with, but I was now running the show. Most people didn't believe I was running the site, even though Dave was quick to back me up on that fact. When other webmasters would come up to him to talk shop, he would direct them over to me. They would pause and then say something like, "No, really, but what do you use for blah, blah, blah?" One thing Dave did do was broker a deal with a local porn shop. We allowed them to duplicate our tapes and sell them with the promise of a cut of the sales. It was completely on the honor system, which was probably pretty stupid, but we did make sure that our URL was listed on every tape at the very least. At this time, website memberships made up most of our income anyway, and did develop a larger fan base due to the distribution of those tapes. There was also the time that they closed the store and allowed us to take pictures all over it. It was kind of neat having people do stuff like that for us so we could take naked photos. Another notable example is when a proprietor of a blacksmithing shop at the Maryland Renaissance Festival let us into the back where they had a little private fenced-in backyard area. They even let us borrow some swords to pose with. Again, I'll admit, it was such a thrill being able to hear the crowds while taking my clothes off, even though no one could see or even suspect a thing. Plus, it was sort of like receiving the VIP treatment, which happened more and more as time went on. In fact, we received the literal VIP treatment when a fan who worked for HF Festival gave us free tickets and VIP passes. We had our own box on the club level, and when Dave discovered he could get free Heinekens at the bar, well, I could have used help dragging him out of there. I flashed my boobs all around RFK Stadium. That may have been the most brazen I ever was, flashing in public. The festival atmosphere just made it feel like it was okay. I do apologize to anyone I scarred for life, though. And no, I did not take advantage of the free drinks myself. Most of the time when we were doing this kind of thing, I was bone sober. Dave, not so much, and his alcoholism will factor into the story in the future. He has been sober for many years now, but to be perfectly honest, it is nothing short of a miracle, several miracles, in fact, that he is still alive today. He is, though, and Dave is very self-aware of his past mistakes. So while I won't go into anything that is not relevant to the story, it's fair to say that this story is not all boobies and roses. I also plan to be very kind in any tellings, and I expect the same from anyone commenting, because I always treated him as if he had a disease. Because that's what it is. I hate ending this on a down note, because there are still so many fun stories. Like life, there are ups and downs, and sometimes the higher you fly, the harder you fall. But I'll be back next week with another tale of a particular trip we took, this time to Hotlanta. Sorry, Georgians. I know you're sick of that, but I had to do it. I first heard the term during that first road trip we took, which was the summer of 1996, when the Olympics were going on in Atlanta, which we passed through. I think they even renovated the road stop bathrooms in that area, because I always need to find a bathroom. I just remember that area having the best bathrooms. They were gorgeous and so high-tech. They even had those new faucets that you have to wave your hand under to get the water to go. They were new at the time. I choose to find it cute how fascinated I was with what is now old, new technology. You gotta find your kick somewhere the older you get. Okay, before I start telling you about that time I wore an onion on my belt, which was the style at the time, I'm gonna call that an episode. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tell me in the comments what you think, or if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time.
It's all said and done.